And God's going to use us to do a great work in our generation. And I want to give you these points tonight. There's just 10 quick things. You read the book of Nehemiah. 10 quick lessons about what it takes to be a builder or a rebuilder for God or with God. All right? Point number 1. Come on, these are simple, but they're important. They're profound. Number 1, get a word from God for your life. Get a word from God for your life. Most of the time when I'm not sure what to do next, it comes back to the point that I'm not sure what God's saying for me to do next. The best thing to always do in your walk with God is always to stop and spend time with God first. I like the story of Nehemiah because when he was bringing the wine to the king back in Persia, he just happened to hear the story of how tough it was in Jerusalem. You know, most of the people got carried off when Nebuchadnezzar invaded Jerusalem, destroyed Jerusalem. Most of the people got carried off, but some got left. Did you know that people like Jeremiah, Daniel, Nehemiah, and these guys, they were all basically contemporaries? They didn't live exactly all at the same time, but some of their lives overlapped each other. And so when you're reading about these different men, a lot of them were working in the same time, the same basic time, or the same basic season of what God was doing. Some of them got carried off captive into Babylon, like Daniel or Nehemiah. Some of them were left back like Jeremiah. And so there were people back there. And then Nehemiah, on top of that, was the third. He was the third exodus from Persia. Persia took over Babylon, right, if you know your history. And so now it's the Persian kingdom. And the third exodus, he was the third one. There were two groups of people that went before him, and this happened over 7 decades. Esther was also in there. She was the queen during a part of this time. And so I just throw that in because it helps you if you can start to get the context. It starts to help you to see God was up to something. It wasn't just a random guy, Nehemiah, and a random project, that God decided to do. This was a move, and God was raising up voices. He was raising up builders. He was raising up different kinds of gifts. He was raising up a woman like Esther, to sit there and to give them influence on the very throne. Amazing. Amazing. And so the great thing, though, about the story of Nehemiah is he just hears the story one day that back in Jerusalem, they're having a hard time. And man, all of a sudden, the Spirit of God comes upon him, and he begins to weep. And he gets a word from God for his life. And that's what drove the whole story. One word from God can change everything. Don't feel bad if you're got a few years under your belt as a Christian and you don't really know what God's called you to do. Don't feel bad that you don't know. Just make it priority to find out. This is good preaching tonight, guys, right? It is. Really is good stuff because it's Bible. It's the stuff that really will remodel your life, all right? If you don't know what to do, if you're confused at all, or maybe you've been in that situation where you knew what to do, but it seemed like the dream has died, just go back to the beginning. Just go back. Benji was preaching this morning about, how Joseph, every time he talked about his dream, he had to drink a little bit more of the cup. He got his sentence extended. Sometimes God tells you stuff, God gives you a dream, but then in that killing process, man, you just got to keep your mouth shut. You just got to stand in there and don't defend yourself and walk with God and stay humble and stay faithful. And I tell you what, eventually you're going to get the walls rebuilt. Eventually we're going to do. People may not think that we're the people that can. They may think that we live in an age, where everybody's so comfortable over here in America. Everything is so comfortable in the West. But I tell you what, there are a people who just under the surface just have that thing I was talking about. It just needs to be scratched off. There's an itch in enough people, I think, that they feel like their life is destined to do something great for God. God has called them to do something great. Get a word from God for your life. I remember when I was in Bible school back in Oklahoma, one of the first words that I ever received from the Lord. Just finishing the second year, and so, in your mind you're thinking, okay, I'm going to launch out and do something great for God. Get all excited. One night I fell asleep on the sofa there, and when I woke up, I had the Christian radio station on. When I woke up in the middle of the night, I heard the guy say, there are some teachers in the kingdom of God, and there are some builders. And as soon as he said builders, man, it was like the Lord quickened the words to me. And God was like, Rocky, you are a builder. And so it's helped me so many times to come back to that. I think, man, it's not working out, or this doesn't seem to be going right. What am I supposed to be doing? Oh, yeah. God told me you're a builder. So I just roll up my sleeves and start building. I'm that way. I don't know if anybody else is like that. I'm a blue-collar guy at heart, man. Give me something to build. Got a house up here, and I said, man, give me something to do around here. There's tons of things. So I started taking stones. I have this cliff for a bunch of stones. We started taking stones and pulling them up and start making a wall so my daughters can't launch over the driveway, in the wintertime. And man, I like it. Right? I don't want to do it all the time, but I like working with my hands, and there's just something about that. God likes people that like to get their hands dirty. But you can't go until you have the Word.